Some moments find you when you least expect them, in the quiet, in the ordinary, in places like an old public library on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. That's where she first heard it. A little voice, tender, uncertain, say one word that shook her entire world, "Mom?" And when she turned around, what the boy said next froze her blood. Clara Morrison was 42, widowed, quiet, a woman who found solace in two things: books and routine. Every Tuesday, she volunteered at the Maple Creek Public Library during reading hour. It wasn't anything extraordinary. She'd read a few picture books, helped children pick out stories, and refill the book return cart. It kept her busy. It kept her heart distracted, especially since the night her son Daniel disappeared 6 years ago. That day, the library was half empty due to the storm. Clara had just finished reading The Very Busy Spider to a group of 5 toddlers when a boy about 7 wandered in from behind the nonfiction shelves, soaking wet, alone. He stood quietly, clutching a worn teddy bear and blinking up at her. Then, without warning, he whispered, "Mom?" Clara's breath hitched. The room blurred for a second. She blinked hard. "I'm sorry," she managed, her voice trembling. The boy stared at her like she was both a memory and a question. Then he said, "He showed me your picture, said you'd come back." Clara's heart thundered in her chest. The boy's eyes, soft hazel with a tiny freckle beneath the left one, were identical to Daniel's. But that couldn't be. Daniel had gone missing at age 1. No leads, no ransom, only a stuffed giraffe left on the sidewalk near their old apartment. She knelt down slowly. "Sweetheart, what's your name?" He hesitated. "They said not to tell." "Who said that?" "The woman with the red scarf and the man with gloves." Clara's skin prickled. "Where are they now?" Clara led the boy, quiet and shivering, to the children's desk and wrapped him in a library blanket. She called the police, fingers shaking. "There's a child here, maybe 7 years old. He's alone and says someone left him here. I think he might be my son." Silence on the other. "Then, stay there. Officers will be dispatched immediately." Clara hung up and turned back to the boy. "Can you tell me your name now?" He looked at her for a long time. "They call me 11. Clara blinked. "Like a number?" He nodded. "It's what we all get, until we pass the test." The library grew colder, quieter. Clara sat beside him. "What test?" "To see if we're good enough to be picked. If we remember too much, they send us away." "Away where?" "I don't know, but one boy, 7, he never came back." Clara felt nausea rising. This wasn't just a child dropped off by unfit parents. This was something else. The boy leaned in and whispered, "Sometimes they give us new names. But one night, I saw a picture in the dark room. It was your face, on the wall, under the word inactive." Clara's heart cracked. "What does that mean?" "It means they said you were done looking." 2 officers arrived. The boy flinched. "Are they with them?" "No, honey, these are helpers." But his hands gripped the chair tightly. "They wear badges too." The officers approached gently. "Ma'am, we'll need to take the boy to Child Protective Services. Standard protocol." He said his name is 11, that he was taken by a man and a woman. He may have been trafficked. The taller officer blinked. Did he mention any facilities, names? "Only numbers, and something about passing a test." The younger officer stepped forward. "We've been hearing murmurs, children showing up with no birth records, no known relatives, always from the same 3 counties. And we believe there's a private network, underground placements." Clara's voice shook. "Then don't let him go into the system again. I need to know if he's Daniel." By midnight, Clara sat in a hospital waiting room, the boy sleeping beside her. A nurse had swabbed his cheek. They promised expedited results. She stroked his damp hair. "Do you remember anything else?" He stirred. "Once a man said you were a mistake, that someone paid to erase you." Clara's breath caught. "Did he say who?" "Just the woman who paid the most." "Did she have a name?" He yawned. "Gloria." Clara froze. That name, Gloria Addison. Her late husband's mother, the woman who had always called Clara unfit, who had disapproved of their marriage, who disappeared from the funeral. At 3:12 a.m., a nurse entered the room. She looked between Clara and the boy. "You said your name was Clara Morrison." "Yes. We have preliminary results. A full match is pending, but the rapid test shows this child is a 98% biological match." Clara gasped. He's my son?" The nurse nodded slowly. Tears streamed down Clara's face as she held the boy, Daniel, in her arms. He stirred and looked up. You came back. I never stopped looking, she whispered. 3 days later, Clara stayed in a hotel under protective custody while a broader investigation began. Daniel was quiet but safe. He spoke more each day, drew pictures of rooms with numbers on doors, of guards with gloves, of a woman in red. Then one morning, Clara received an unmarked envelope under her hotel door. Inside, a photo of Daniel at age 2 playing in a sunlit yard. Behind him, Gloria Addison, and another woman in a red scarf. A note scribbled on the back, "You weren't supposed to find him." Clara turned the photo over again. Below the message, a name, Little Pines Institute for Exceptional Youth, closed. A memory surfaced. A flyer years ago, advertising behavioral enhancement programs for toddlers with developmental delays. Daniel had been just learning to speak when he vanished. And now, she knew he hadn't wandered off. He had been taken, and someone in her family paid for it to happen. Some truths aren't buried underground. They're hidden in plain sight, inside family photo albums, behind polite smiles, within the silence of people who claim to love you. Clara had spent 6 years believing her baby vanished without a trace. But now that she held her son again, the truth didn't bring peace. It brought something far more dangerous. Because the woman who took him was someone who once hugged Clara and called her family. The envelope had no return address. Inside, a photo of a toddler playing on a lawn, Daniel just a year after his disappearance. And in the background, Gloria Addison, her former mother-in-law, the woman who vanished from their lives the night of Clara's husband's funeral. On the back of the photo, a message, "You weren't supposed to find him." Little Pines Institute for Exceptional Youth, closed. Clara stared at the image, her breath uneven. She remembered Gloria's constant criticisms, her judgment, her wealth, and now she realized Gloria hadn't just disliked her, she had removed her. Clara visited Robert Ling, the family's old attorney, who had handled David Addison's will. "I need to ask about something that happened 6 years ago," she said, voice tight. "Right after my husband's death, right before my son disappeared." Ling hesitated. "Clara, I don't handle missing persons. This is about Gloria. I think she was involved in something bigger. Do you remember anything suspicious around the time of the will reading?" He looked away, then opened a drawer. "This was never filed. Your husband left an addendum." He handed her a sealed envelope labeled "For Clara, in case of sudden death." She opened it with trembling hands. Inside, a handwritten note. "If anything happens to me, don't trust my mother. She's been pushing for Daniel to be evaluated at a place called Little Pines, says it's behavioral therapy, but something feels wrong. She doesn't want you involved." "David," Clara gasped. He knew. Clara drove to the last known address of Little Pines on the edge of Sutter County. The building was boarded up, overgrown with weeds, but the rusted sign still read, "Little Pines Institute for Exceptional Youth." She parked and walked around the perimeter. Behind the main building, she found a small metal gate half buried in leaves. She pried it open. Inside, an old storage room. Filing cabinets, medical cots, broken toys, and folders, rows of them, each labeled with a first name and a number. She opened one, 11 intake notes, and another, 7 non-compliant, transferred. Her hands trembled. They numbered the children. At home, Clara uploaded the files to a secure drive and began calling every name she could find listed as guardian contact. Most numbers were disconnected. Some refused to talk, but one answered. A woman named Erica. "You're calling about Little Pines, aren't you?" "Yes, my son Daniel, he was taken there. I found a file. He was called 11. Erica was silent for a moment. Then, "My daughter was 14. They said she had sensory issues, that she needed behaviorals. I signed her in. But after 3 months, they said she ran away. I never saw her again." Clara whispered. "I don't think she ran. I think they sent her away." Erica's voice broke. "Do you have proof?" "Yes, and I need your help." Clara returned to Gloria Addison's estate. She hadn't seen her in 6 years. The staff still remembered her. Let her in. Gloria sat by the fireplace, aged but still sharp. Her voice was cool. "You're back. You stole my son. I saved him from a life of grief, from a mother drowning in sorrow. You paid someone to erase me. I paid to protect Daniel. You were unstable after David's death. You had no right." "I had every right. That boy is blood. And you... Her eyes narrowed. You were temporary. Clara stepped forward, rage in her voice. You sent him to a facility that numbered children like lab rats. Gloria didn't flinch. They were correcting defects? Clara froze. Defects? Children born of broken homes, trauma, poverty. We were refining potential, giving them clean slates. You dehumanized them. Gloria stood, voice hard. And now you're putting him back in the mud. No, Clara said. I'm setting him free. Clara and Erica met Tessa Fields, an investigative journalist already digging into the Ramani Foundation and its orphanage network. Clara handed her the files. These are real children, with numbers, notes, some labeled non-compliant. Tessa flipped through the folders, her face pale. This isn't just a rogue facility. These methods, they match patterns we've seen overseas. Kajing programs, behavior reassignments. Erica leaned in. We need this on record. We need to find the other parents. Tessa nodded. We'll start with a series, anonymous testimonies. If we get traction, we'll subpoena the archived guardianship records. Clara's hands shook. And if they come after us? Tessa looked at her. Then we know we hit the right nerve. That night, as Clara tucked Daniel into bed, he looked up at her. Will they find us again? Not this time, sweetheart. I won't let them. I had dreams, he whispered. In the place before, where they showed us faces, told us who was good, who was bad. You were the one they called the void. The what? It means you were supposed to be forgotten. Claire kissed his forehead. They were wrong. The next day, Tessa contacted a whistleblower known only as Ren, an ex-contractor who worked on Ramani's digital record-keeping before Little Pines shut down. Ren decrypted the internal messaging system. One message stood out. Subject line. Void A Mother Mark. Sender Gladison at Ramani Foundation. Text. Subject 11 is with the mother again. Intervene silently. Reclaim if necessary. Clara stared at the screen. She's still trying to take him back, Tessa whispered. And she has allies inside Ramani. That night, Clara found a single white envelope taped to her door. Inside, a drawing. Crayon? Sloppy but clear. A tall woman in red. A boy standing alone. And next to the woman, a figure with no face. Beneath it, scrawled in shaky handwriting, Void mothers must be removed. And on the back of the paper, a logo. The Pines Collective, Phase 2 launch. When they try to erase you once, it's a woo. When they try again, after you've survived, it's war. And Clara Morrison had survived once. She wasn't going to vanish again. Not now. Not when the drawing taped to her door confirmed her worst fear. They weren't done. The collective hadn't died with Little Pines. It had only gone quiet, waiting. The child's drawing had one phrase beneath the faceless woman: Void mothers must be removed. And on the back, a logo: The Pines Collective, Phase 2 launch, active. Clara stared at it in horror. Daniel sat quietly beside her. They made us draw things like this, he whispered. Pictures of who mattered, who didn't. They called it training. Training for what? To forget. Clara met Tessa and Erica at a safe house provided by a victims advocacy group. Tessa placed files and screenshots on the table. Ren dug deeper into Ramani's archives. He found Phase 2 planning files, hidden behind Denny corporations. One was registered in Panama, another in Wyoming, but both had one parent organization, the Pines Collective, a rehabilitation and re-identification initiative disguised as a support group for at-risk youth. They're targeting foster kids now, Tessa explained, labeling them as statistically unlikely to thrive, then fast-tracking their removal from public oversight. Erica's face was pale. They're building another Little Pines. No, Clara said. She stood. They're building an army. Ren created an interactive map. Each red dot represented a documented child from Little Pines Phase 1. Each blue dot was a suspected Phase 2 intake, recent disappearances with no formal investigation. There were over 200 blue dots, spread across 9 states, and one blinking yellow marker right outside Clara's hometown. That's the new intake facility, Ren explained. They call it the Retreat, disguised as a therapeutic wilderness center, privately funded. Clara stared at the screen. Daniel leaned over and whispered, "That's where 7 went. You remember? They said he wasn't strong enough, that he didn't forget fast enough. What happened to him?" He screamed, then he stopped. Ren decrypted a second batch of internal emails. One stood out, from Maeve.ca, Pines Collective. 2. G. Addison, Ed Rahmani Foundation. Subject, Reclamation Protocol. Text. Subject 11 has been contaminated by maternal reintroduction, risk, memory, resurfacing. Phase 2 requires cleansing. Suggests swift, silent removal. Mother is persistent. If containment fails, eradicate. Clara read it 3 times. They still see him as a subject, and you as an error, Tessa said. Erica pointed at another line. Maternal reintroduction disrupts core obedience metrics. Because love isn't programmable, Clara whispered. No matter how hard they try. Clara, Tessa, and Ren returned to the abandoned Little Pine site, now surrounded by warning tape. In the old intake wing, they found a wall with faded writing. A child's handwriting, scrawled in crayon. We forget or we vanish. Next to it, void danger, and dozens of numbers. Ren took photos. Tessa pocketed a broken key card from the floor. We'll compare the code to the new facility system, she said. If it matches, it proves the same people are running phase. Suddenly, Clara's phone buzzed. A video message from an unknown number. She played it. The screen showed a child, bound, blindfolded. He couldn't have been older than 8. A distorted voice played over the image. You released what wasn't yours. You've poisoned the program. 1 return, 1 correction, 1 warning. Then the screen cut to black. Tessa's voice was a whisper. They're not just watching us. Erica asked the question they all feared. Is that 7? Daniel nodded slowly. That's him. They used to make him sit in the dark. The next day, Ren sent a final message. They're moving up the timeline. Phase 2 goes fully operational in 6 days. They're targeting 50 new children from 3 states. Tessa stared at the list. These are real names. Some are still in CPS care. Others are in foster homes. We have to leak this, Clara said. If we do, they'll come after us all. Then let them. She looked down at Daniel. They took everything once, they won't do it again. That evening, Clara stepped outside the safe house for air. Rain fell gently. Then, a car parked across the street. A woman stepped out, wearing a red scarf. She didn't speak. She only smiled. Clara's knees weakened. It's her, she whispered. From Daniel's drawing. The woman raised a phone, took a photo, got back in the car, and drove away. Back inside, Ren decrypted another message. Subject line, Phase 3 candidate, Daniel Morrison. Clara opened the file. Inside, a neurological assessment, conditioning logs, behavioral override attempts. The last entry, Subject 11, retained emotional trace imprint of maternal bond. Action required, wipe or eliminate. Timeline 7, a new message came in. Live feed from inside the retreat. And Clara saw Daniel's photo on a wall with the word returned. Some places don't need barbed wire to be prisons. They use routine, quiet smiles, laminated name tags. Security systems hidden behind phrases like therapeutic care. The retreat wasn't a center for healing. It was the new name for an old nightmare. And I was going in, not just as a mother, but as bait. Clara sat in Tessa's car, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Are you sure about this? Tessa asked. I have no choice. They've already marked Daniel for retrieval. I need to see what's happening on the inside. Ren had forged a new identity, Elise Norwood, a grieving aunt applying for a support job at the retreat. Her references? Fabricated. Her resume? Polished by a whistleblower who once built staff profiles for Rahmani. She had an interview scheduled for 9. The retreat sat hidden among pine trees, miles from the nearest town. It looked like a luxury resort. Polished stone, earth-toned siding, friendly signage. The receptionist smiled warmly. You must be Elise. Welcome to the retreat. Clara forced a nod. Thank you. I'm excited to help. She was given a temporary badge, ushered through wide halls, paintings of smiling children, soft instrumental music. But behind the serenity, she could feel it. The same chill from Little Pines, the same absence of joy beneath the surface. She was assigned to the Level 2 youth wing. Children aged. Clara walked through the glass-paneled door. 20 children sat quietly at activity tables. No one laughed. Each wore color-coded wristbands, some red, some blue. One child with a black band sat alone in a corner. Clara approached him. Hi there, I'm Elise. He flinched. Didn't answer. A staff member came over quickly. He's nonverbal today. Let him be. Clara nodded. But she made a mental note. Black meant silenced, just like Daniel said. On her second day, Clara convinced a supervisor to let her help in the file room. She made copies, delivered folders. Then, while the hallway emptied for lunch, she slipped into the cabinet marked Phase 2, Cognitive Reset. Inside, files labeled with numbers and color codes. One folder. 11. Observation Report. Morrison, Daniel. She opened it. Each page detailed interactions, test responses, and emotional setbacks. A recent entry read, maternal rebonding, reactivated latent empathy, recommendation, memory suppression, or removal. Then, her breath caught. Attached to the back page, a facility transfer notice, signed by Maeve Carlson. Clara returned to the Level 2 wing that afternoon. While tucking away a stack of books, she glanced out the window. A black SUV had pulled up, and stepping out, wearing red. Maeve, Gloria's enforcer, the woman from the photo, from the drawing. Clara whispered, "She's here." That night, Tessa met her in a diner 10 miles from the facility. This confirms everything. Maeve's still operational, still part of Romani. They're using the retreat to finish what Little Pine started. What do you want to do? Clara's voice didn't waver. Expose it. All of it. Ren instructed Clara to search for rooms. If it mirrors Little Pine's layout, C7 is where they housed non-compliant subjects. Clara waited until after evening shift change. She took the staff stairs down to level B. Most of the lights were off. But down the hall, a keypad lit up. She typed a master override code Ren had provided. The door opened. Inside, a single chair, straps, monitors, and a desk drawer labeled Mother's Marked Void Archives. Inside, she found a stack of files, dozens of them, each with a photo. A mother, her own face among them. As she turned to leave, a voice stopped her. "You shouldn't be here." She spun. Maeve stood in the doorway. Tall, cold. "I was hoping I'd see you again," Clara said. Maeve smiled faintly. "Still breaking into rooms? Still stealing children?" Maeve stepped closer. "You think this is about children? This is about correcting the world, rebuilding it from the inside. Kids without noise, without chaos, without inherited grief. You mean without mothers? We select only the most troubled, the most vulnerable," Clara whispered. "You mean the ones no one will notice?" Maeve's eyes glinted. "You weren't supposed to come back. Daniel wasn't supposed to remember. But he did, and now I have everything I need." Clara held up her phone, still recording. Maeve's smile vanished. Maeve moved quickly, snatched the phone, smashed it. Clara lunged for the door, but 2 guards were already there. Maeve looked at her calmly. "You wanted to be remembered?" She nodded at the guards. "Now you'll be archived too." They dragged Clara away, her screams echoing down the corridor. The last thing she saw, room C9, open, and inside, Daniel, tears streaming down his face, his wrist strapped, a black band on his arm. Some rooms aren't just cold. They're designed to make you forget warmth ever existed. The archive room at the retreat was that kind of place. Silent, sterile, walls lined with names and faces. But what chilled Clara the most was that most of the mothers staring back at her from those folders were marked with a red stamp, void, and beneath each photo, in neat, heartless ink, status, irretrievable. She wasn't just surrounded by stories. She was surrounded by women the world was told to forget. And in less than 2 hours, her son Daniel would be added to the next page. Unless she stopped it. Clara woke strapped to a chair, hands bound, feet cold against the concrete floor. Her phone was gone. Her voice, dry and hoarse. A single light bulb hung above her. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Then, Maeve entered, calm, poised, holding a clipboard. "Welcome to Archive, Clara. Where's Daniel?" "Safe. For now." Maeve walked a slow circle around her. "You came so far, but bravery doesn't rewrite data. He was scheduled for reconditioning hours ago." "You're lying." "I don't need to lie. Your son will forget you soon." Again. Clara's voice cracked. "You tried to erase love." Maeve tilted her head. "No, I tried to silence its chaos." On the wall behind Maeve, Clara saw a terminal, a screen flickering with live logs. One line repeated every few seconds. Subject 11, reset countdown. A green progress bar inched forward. Clara knew what came next. If it hit 0, Daniel would undergo a second memory suppression. Everything they'd rebuilt, his trust, his name, his mother, would be wiped away. "You're not God," Clara whispered. Maeve smiled. "But I've erased more prayers than you'll ever count." Meanwhile, Ren and Tessa, watching from a mobile van parked outside the retreat, picked up on Clara's sudden device silence. They activated the backup plan. Tessa messaged Erica, who had been coordinating with other survivor parents. Together, they launched a public dump, all redacted files. Photos of the retreat's interiors, audio from Ren's hidden recordings. Social media exploded. Within 20 minutes, a trending topic emerged. Erase the erasure. The Pines true? News outlets picked it up. Tessa looked at Ren. "Now we wait for pressure from the top." "No," Ren replied. "Now we go get her." Back inside the archive room, Maeve prepared an injection. "You won't remember this conversation, it's easier that way." Clara smiled faintly. "You talk too much." Maeve raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" Clara tipped her chair back just enough. The left armrest popped loose, exactly where she'd noticed the loosened screw the day before. She grabbed it, swung, hit Maeve in the temple. Maeve stumbled, screamed. Clara grabbed the keys from her belt and sprinted. She didn't know where Daniel was, but she knew who might. She burst into the level 2 wing. 2 children screamed, one pointed. Daniel wasn't in his usual corner. Clara darted to the security terminal and found a recent log. Subject 11, transfer to room Omega. She turned and a small voice whispered, "Room Omega is downstairs, past the quiet zone." She turned to see the same child who wore a black band the day before. His eyes, wide and solemn, watched her carefully. They took 7 there too. Clara knelt. "Thank you. What's your name?" "I was 12. She squeezed his hand. "You're more than a number." Then she ran. Clara broke through the quiet zone. Sirens had begun to echo. Security was waking up. Inside room Omega, she found Daniel, strapped, calm, but distant. The machine beside him beeped slowly. A monitor showed a brainwave pattern. Above it, flashing, initiating wipe and Maeve appeared behind her, bleeding, furious, holding a taser. "Get away from the boy." Clara didn't move. "You won't touch him again. You can't stop this. It's automated. Even I can't abort now." "Good," Clara said. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a memory chip, one she had hidden in her shoe sole. Programmed by Ren. She shoved it into the side port. Maeve screamed. "No!" The system glitched. Rebooted. Screen now flashing. Override detected, restoring source memories. Tessa had begun live streaming as authorities closed in. Through hacked footage from internal retreat cameras, the world saw a woman standing protectively over a child, security trying to block her, other staff members fleeing, and a live counter showing dozens of names restored to their rightful parents. Daniel stirred, looked up at Clara. "Mom?" "Yes, baby." He wept. "I knew you'd come." Police stormed the facility. Maeve was tackled, screaming, "You're ruining everything." "No," Clara whispered. "I'm remembering everything." Tessa met her at the entrance. Daniel clung to Clara's side. Ren handed over a flash drive to the lead investigator. Full logs, photos, staff identities, financial backers. The retreat was shut down. Indictments were filed. 1 month later, Clara testified before a Senate committee. She brought Daniel with her. He sat beside her, holding her hand. "You were called a void," one senator said. "Do you have anything to say to the people who gave you that label?" Clara looked at her son. Then back at the panel. They erased mothers to control children, but they forgot one thing. You can wipe data, you can silence voices, but you can't erase love. Today, Clara runs a foundation, Mothers Remembered, a network of families impacted by the Pines Collective and similar facilities around the world. Daniel is thriving. He paints now. He never uses numbers in his art, only names, only people with full faces. When people ask Clara how she did it, she always says the same thing. "I never stopped listening for his voice." And when he said mom, even if it was by mistake, it was enough to bring him home. What if the child who called you mom by mistake was really calling you back to yourself? Moral reflection. They tried to turn motherhood into a glitch, tried to turn children into numbers, but love doesn't forget. Love rewrites everything they tried to delete. What did this final chapter teach you about reclaiming identity, resistance through compassion, and the power of a single voice that refuses to be silenced? Share your thoughts in the comments.